like to call, excuse me, the October 5th, 2023 meeting of the Casa Grande Planning and Zoning Commission to order. Please join me for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Michelle, would you call the roll, please?
Member Aldrett?
Here.
Member Vanderhayden?
Here.
Member Hubbard? Here. Member Peters?
Here.
Vice Chair Garza? Here. Chairman Benedict?
Here. Commissioners, I'd appreciate a motion to excuse Mr. Estrada is ill this evening. Please, I need a motion to excuse for his absence, to make his absence excused.
Chair, I'd like to make a motion to excuse Commissioner Estrada from tonight's meeting.
Thank you.
Second.
Second? Very good. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Good, thank you. Okay, any changes to the agenda?
No changes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioners, we have minutes for your approval.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes of September 7th of 2023.
I have a motion.
Second.
Pick one. Yeah. All right, motion and second to approve the minutes. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Okay, very good. Next on our agenda is the consent agenda. The two items, I hope for all of you folks that you have an agenda, the two items that are on that consent agenda, we can act on all of them together without having a hearing. If there is, unless somebody from the public or commissioner would like it pulled, then it will go through the normal process of presentation and et cetera. So commissioners and anybody from the public, these two, only these two that you see under the consent agenda would be, we will act on in one piece unless somebody wants to pull it. Commissioners? No? Anybody from the public? No? All right. Commissioners, I need a motion.
Chairman,
Go ahead.
Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda items E1 and E2.
Very good. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Very good. How many times have we done this? Do I need a roll call? There you go.
Member Aldrett?
Aye.
Member Vanderhayden?
Yes.
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Vice Chair Vice Chair Garza?
Aye.
Chairman Benedict?
That other guy, yeah. Aye. I like it the other way. I'm trying to get, anyway. Okay. So we have some old business to consider a request by Boulder Associates Architects on behalf of Sun Life for a major site plan, DSA 2300143. Jim, how would you like to proceed, my friend?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of Planning Commission. As you introduce this item, it's a continuance of the consideration for the major site plan associated with Sun Life Health Center. The proposed location is at the southeast corner of Florence Boulevard and Hennis. At the September 7th Planning Commission meeting, Planning Commission did move to approve the PAD amendment associated with the request to allow an increased height modification to the landscape and signage standards that apply to the zoning in order to accommodate the proposed approximate 113,000 square foot, 4-story Sun Life healthcare facility at this location. However, the major site plan portion of the consideration was continued due to the fact that the latest traffic impact analysis reviewed at the time had significant outstanding issues. There were 11 technical modifications that had not yet been confirmed to have been addressed. And then there were also some unrelated technical modifications related to water and drainage plans. Since that meeting, the city traffic engineer had the opportunity to review the traffic impact analysis that had been submitted shortly before September's Planning Commission meeting, and did find it approvable, subject to a shorter list of technical modifications. The other unrelated technical modifications that didn't have to do with traffic concerns have since been addressed. So as a result of the approval, the traffic engineer is subjecting it to the following technical modifications, which have been passed out to members of the commission. Since these recommended technical modifications were made and or were provided to the applicant has responded that they can comply. That letter recognizing that they are able to comply with these, as well as an updated recommendations page to the TIA, has been distributed to you to peruse. Also, since then, an updated traffic impact analysis has also been submitted with the intention that these above modifications have indeed been addressed, and they have been discussing with the traffic engineer some fine-tuning elements to those modifications. And this latest traffic impact analysis that is under review will be subject to the final confirmation by the city traffic engineer. Otherwise, staff has found that the major site plan criteria associated with this have all been met. And regarding the public notification process, we didn't do new public notifications since it was continued to a date certain this meeting. However, there was no additional or no prior comments or concerns expressed by the public through the public notification efforts. So that said, staff recommends that Planning Commission move to approve the major site plan, subject to the following conditions that you see here on the screen and addressed in your staff report, and the technical modifications associated with the traffic impact analysis. And I'd be happy to go through any of these with you or answer any questions that you might have.
Commissioners, any questions?
Yeah, Jim, I have a question. That one right turn in, right in off of Hennis, the length of that, how does that compare with, say, the right in they're making right now at Whataburger on Florence and whatever that is, or compared to the right in that's at Treckle and Cottonwood that turns in by the car wash? The one that's a real quick one, how is that length compared kind of to those off of?
Sure, Commissioner, perhaps our city traffic engineer can address that. I don't know the exact lengths of those referenced turn lanes, but maybe he has some insight on that.
Commissioner, I have the TI excerpt that shows the turn lane they are providing. So we have a desirable length and we have minimum length. I have looked at the TIA and probably I need a little bit more time to digest. But at this time, my reaction is, yes, we will be able to fit in minimum requirement for certain locations. As for the reference to other driveway, I have to look at it. I don't have those information handy at this time.
Yeah, I was just thinking of a visual because the one by the car wash sometimes is kind of really short, it seems like, right there by Safeway. And I'm kind of concerned about the one by Whataburger too, kind of turning in there, and that's going to be a...
For Whataburger, I have experienced that location, so it has gotten some issue. For this one, we are constrained with the site location, so even if we tried, we could not have a longer turn lane.
I will say that the turn lane into the first driveway, the one that is closer to Florence, is indeed longer
Okay,
than the turn lane that accesses the south driveway.
okay.
But the applicant would be able to opine on this more. However, they would contend that there's probably more queuing to get to that northern driveway
Correct.
because it's closest to Florence and it's closer to the building.
Okay.
The second driveway will probably see more exits than entrances into the site
Okay.
for vehicles wanting to turn northbound onto Hennis to get back to
All right.
Florence.
Well, thank you.
Okay. Commissioners, anything else?
Chairman, I have a question.
Yes.
Jim, what's the status of the bungalows development? Just to kind of talk through that stipulation about the traffic signal at Via de Cielo.
So Jacqueline was actually the planner on that. She may be able to provide more insight. I just know that they're under site development phase right now, and I believe we're waiting on the recordation of their final plat.
Yes, that's correct. We're waiting on the bond, received the bond and cost estimate to record the plat. It has been approved by city council. They are doing site development work currently and are moving forward, with the project.
Okay, so everything's under construction?
Yes.
That's, okay.
And also, I might add, on their final plat, when they record it, their financial assurance for that plat will include the cost of a signal at Via de Cielo as an off-site improvement.
Got it. Great.
Very good, thank you. Any other questions? No? All right. Would the applicant or their representative like to address this issue? Oh, great. Nope. There she
We meet again.
is. Hello.
You want my name the same way that you
Please.
did last time? Okay.
Name and
Samantha
address for the record.
Reinhard, address 865 North Arizola Road, Casa Grande. I don't have anything that I want to say further. I think we have addressed everything I hope to your liking, but should you have any questions, we are available.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Commissioners, anything for the applicant? No. Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'll now open up to the public. Anybody in the public, if anybody in the audience want to address this issue, please come forward. Seeing none, close the public portion of the meeting, bring it back to the commission. Commissioners, what's your desires?
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you.
I think it's only appropriate that I make a motion at this point. I recommend that we move to approve the major site plan, subject to the following conditions and technical modifications as presented by staff. This is regarding DSA-23-00143.
Very good. I have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Motion is second. Any discussion? Okay, let's call the roll.
Member Aldrat?
Aye.
Member Vanderhayden?
Yes.
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Vice Chair Garza?
Aye.
Chairman Benedict?
Yes. Okay. On to new business. G1, we'll have a public hearing and consider a request by Lazarus and Sylvan for a major amendment to the McCartney Center PAD, DSA 23-00151. Jim?
All right, so this is a request to amend an approximate 10-acre parcel that sits within the McCartney Center Planned Area Development Zone, known as Parcel B. The subject site is highlighted on the screen in yellow. It sits at the northeast corner of McCartney Road and Palomino Parkway. Currently, it sits within an area of the PAD that's designated for commercial uses. You'll see the pink area on the screen is the various commercial land use that applies to the McCartney Center PAD. There's approximately 77 acres allocated for commercial uses. The goldish color that you see on the screen are parcels that are currently designated for high-density residential, and it makes up about 25 acres. The request would amend parcel B to put it into a multifamily land use. If the amendment is successful, it would result in a reduction of the commercial area to approximately 67 acres, and it would increase the multifamily area to a total of 35 acres. I do want to point out that the most significantly sized commercial parcel sits between Tucker Road and I-10. That would likely support and accommodate the crux of commercial uses looking to locate here because it's closest to the interstate and it has a lot of highway frontage. Whereas the parcel that's under consideration this evening would provide an opportunity to put multifamily use in close proximity to single-family use that sits to the north that is potentially a better neighbor from a compatibility standpoint compared to commercial uses as currently approved. The applicant did provide a conceptual layout of what a multifamily development on this parcel would look like. And actually what's prompting this application is to construct a traditional style walk-up apartment design. And a major site plan is scheduled to be submitted fairly shortly to accommodate that. However, the PAD amendment is general in that it would allow a variety of multifamily uses. Different types of high-density residential that would be allowed would be such as traditional walk-up apartments or rentable townhomes. Because of the general plan designation and the size of the property, up to 24 dwelling units per acre would be allowed. This PAD amendment could also potentially allow medium-density residential style development. That would be limited to 12 dwelling units per acre. Examples of what's considered medium-density residential is developments such as build-to-rent or duplexes, triplexes, etc. When reviewing the criteria associated with amendments to planned area developments, all of these criteria have to be addressed, and the staff report gets into each of these in more detail, but I'm just going to highlight or talk about these three highlighted items. The first one has to deal with interrelationship of plan elements to the site and surrounding conditions, basically compatibility. So we go back to the conceptual site plan that was provided with the PAD amendment to look at how a multifamily development can be potentially compatible with surrounding uses. The area with the most sensitivity, of course, is the single-family area directly to the north. Fortunately, there's 650 feet from Palomino Parkway to the start of the first single-family home that is used as a open space retention area for the single-family area, so that's not as much of a concern from a compatibility standpoint. The crucial concern is the 250-foot stretch towards the east side of the property where there's the backs of 6 homes. It's a benefit, however, that none of these 6 homes are 2 stories. That helps mitigate some of the compatibility. Also, based on this conceptual site plan, they are showing how setbacks and landscaping can be used to offset that. So the PAD proposes a minimum of a 50-foot setback from a residential area, within which you would also have to provide a 15-foot perimeter landscape buffer, but should they develop this conceptual site plan, they're actually proposing a 100-foot setback and a 25-foot landscape buffer. So that does further help address some of that separation or create separation to help address that concern. With regard to traffic considerations, we don't have a full traffic impact analysis at a PAD amendment stage. We would get that at the time of the major site plan. However, they did provide some traffic analysis. It's recognized that the site sits about 3/4 of a mile from the interstate, and McCartney is probably going to see a continual increase in traffic. One of the benefits to this plan is they're not identifying or proposing, per working with the city, any driveways onto or from McCartney. The driveway would be accessed via Palomino Parkway, and there would be the construction of a right turn lane for vehicles to turn north onto Palomino Parkway. There is the potential for an emergency-only access onto McCartney, but that would only, of course, be used in emergency situations. With the development of this site would also be the requirement for a 70-foot portion of their southernmost portion of their property to be dedicated for public right-of-way. Currently, the property goes to the center of the road. The roadway sits as an existing roadway easement. So the development of this site would result in a 70-foot dedication matching that which was done in front of Circle K, which sits to the east. So between Palomino and Tucker, we would have the full half-street dedication. With regard to compliance with the general plan, it does sit within the neighborhood's land use category. Sites up to 20 acres can have high-density residential development types, up to 24 dwelling units per acre. Medium-density residential is also allowed up to 12 dwelling units per acre. Another factor that we look at is no more than 20% of the neighborhood's land use area within a half-mile radius shall be used for medium or high-density developments. When looking at a half-mile buffer around the property, there are 2 sites that fall within that half-mile neighborhood's area, and about 9% of the land within the half-mile, including parcel B, is allocated for multifamily. So there's basically the potential for double the multifamily to still be compliant with this general plan rule. And then as far as open space and public land dedication, as I mentioned, they are based on this conceptual plan, providing for a 25-foot landscape buffer between the single-family area and the parking area. And then there will also be a 25-foot landscape buffer along Palomino. On the other side of Palomino is another single-family area, so that is a benefit to have some additional buffer there. And then on the south, it would be a minimum of a 15-foot landscape buffer. And then following PAD residential design standards, which the site would be required to comply with, the minimum open space is 20%, 50% of which can be used for clubhouses or private patio or balcony areas. Based on this conceptual plan, they're providing 29% open space, with only 10% of that being for the clubhouse. It's unknown if the units are to have usable balconies or not, or private open space areas, but the calculation that's shown on this plan does not factor balcony space towards the open space calculation. Regarding the public notification process, there was notification sent out to the McCartney Center HOA and owners of property within 300 feet in late June, advising that we did have this application in for review to gather comments and feedback. Independent of that, the applicant had walked the neighborhood and visited with the HOA as well as particular residents to identify and discuss any concerns. There was notification sent regarding the actual public hearing as well a few weeks ago, and to date, no inquiries have been received. Staff does recommend that Planning Commission move to forward a recommendation to City Council to approve this amendment to Parcel B of McCartney Center, subject to some technical modifications and conditions of record that are discussed more thoroughly in the staff report. However, I'd be happy to address any of these if you have questions. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay, commissioners, questions for staff? Okay, all right. Seeing none, would the applicant or their representative like to come forward and address the commission, please? Please give us your name and address for the record.
Certainly. Thank you. My name is Larry Lazarus. Thank you. My office is at 206 East Virginia in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm here representing Z Modular, the applicant for the case. I have here with me this evening Arthur Walston, the entitlements manager for Z Modular, Nathan Landreville, who is with STG, the STG Design architect for the matter, and Michelle Green, my senior land planner with my office. I want to give a very brief comments. Mr. Gigliardi has been very comprehensive in his comments. I just want to talk to you about the neighborhood outreach and what we did in respect to that as to the project. Briefly review the site plan and then talk about the quality of the development that you can expect from Z Modular. We hired a gentleman by the name of Tom Bilston, consulting firm, to conduct a neighborhood outreach. He knocked on 71 doors in the area immediately surrounding the property. The neighbors who would be most affected by the project to the north. One of the concerns we heard initially from one of the residents was that our apartments would use the park that they have directly north of this site, and that's maintained by the HOA. We explained that this is highly unlikely because of the quality of the amenities that we will see on our project, and which you're going to see in a minute. And there's really no need to go next door. In fact, we thought they might want to come to our site to use the amenities. While Tom was out canvassing, there were questions about the quality of the development, and there was reference to another development that was run down. Again, we met with them, we talked about the quality, they saw the proposed amendment, and after reviewing that, the gentleman did not have a problem any longer. We also offered a tour of our project on one that we have in the city of Maricopa to the board of McCartney Center Homeowners Association. We had members there who were able to tour the property, including one of the 6 homes that lives right across the street. They were impressed with the amenities and the quality of the development. We also had the community manager of that HOA on the tour, and she was so impressed that she wrote an email to the city council supporting the project. I have copies of that if you don't have them in your file. And one of the members actually said, and I quote, "This sure beats having commercial trucks backing up to my property." So we were very well received. Let me move on to the next. This is the site plan that we're going to be proposing. Although the buildings are only required to be 50-foot setback from the property line to the north, we're actually at 95 feet, almost 100 feet back. We're also proposing landscaping and trees, not deciduous trees, which was a comment made by one of the neighbors. That'll be planted on the north side of the property, adjacent to the homes, which will act as a further visual buffer. As far as the amenities go, there will be a pool, and a spa, and an outdoor kitchen on the northwest corner of the property. I'll go back and show you that. Also, the clubhouse has a sports theater simulator where you can practice golf, football, soccer, etc. Pickleball court on the west side. There will be a fully equipped gymnasium, and there'll be a lounge area of space for the residents. There's a walking trail entirely around the property that people living there can use. This rendering gives you an idea what it will look like when it's built. The project is designed to be highly stylized elevations using quality building materials with a modern design appeal. The design includes architectural embellishments, including decorative metal balcony screens, canopies, standing seam metal roof elements, wood simulation. In conclusion, we do believe that this is going to be a very high-quality project and will be an asset to the city of Casa Grande. I have a couple other pictures I'm going to show you real quick, but I don't have any. That's the pool area and the other, which will be similar to our other site. This is what I was talking about when I was talking about the clubhouse. And these are actually the units themselves. This is a seasoned developer who is ready to go ahead on the project as soon as possible. Thank you very much for your attention. If there are any questions, I will, or my architect will try to answer them.
Commissioners, any questions?
I have a few questions.
Yes, please.
What is the planned unit mix of the apartment?
I'm sorry.
What is the planned unit mix? How many 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms?
It was quick before I got him up here, right?
Nathan Launderville, architect at STG Design. Address is 2801 East Camelback Road in Phoenix.
Thank you.
So what we have proposed, I guess, is the PAD amendment. When we do submit for our site plan application, it'll be 204 units in total. They range from studios to 3 bedrooms. So the majority being 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms. We've got 66 1 bedrooms and almost 100 2 bedrooms. The remainder being studios and 3 bedrooms.
What is the target demographic of this apartment complex?
I guess I can't really speak to who's going to be renting, but typically it's a workforce, people that live in the community. It'll be similar in terms of residents that are living to the single family on the north side of the property.
So are you targeting it towards families?
I guess
Mix.
we cannot discriminate against anyone, so whoever applies meets the criminal background check and the financial stipulations that's typical of any apartment complex.
Okay.
The lawyer's talking about non-discrimination in his area.
All right, thank you.
I have
Yes.
a quick question, just for staff. I noticed there's a pickleball court planned on your conceptual site plan. Is there any regulations to pickleball? Because I know it can be noisy at times. I've had a little bit of an experience with it, so I just wanted to ask the question.
Director.
So there are no specific prohibitions or regulations. However, when you see the major site plan, you can raise that issue and make the decision if that's an appropriate location. This decision tonight won't affect any of the layout of the site, really,
Right.
other than the one setback. But I would note that it is adjacent to the retention basin, so might be a good location, but certainly something to think about at the major site plan level.
Does the city have them elsewhere?
Oh, yes, we have a complex at Dave White Park, a big pickleball complex there.
I meant more within a residential site.
Oh, residential?
Near homes.
No, not really.
Okay.
Palm Creek does have one, and so does Fiesta Grande in their developments.
Okay.
We are very much aware of the noise situation.
Okay.
The reason this was placed as far away from those residents as possible.
Right,
and
that's why I
across
was
that.
just asking the question, so you can.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else, commissioners? All right, thank you, appreciate that.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
you- Appreciate you being here in the presentation. Okay, I'd like to open up the public portion of the meeting for this item. Would anybody like to address this issue from the public? Please come forward.
Linda Dixon, 1210 Clearview Drive, Casa Grande, Arizona. My issue would be over water. Where are they going to get their water? Where are they going to get their water?
Okay, anybody else?
Hello, good evening. Sorry. My name is Nancy Wood, and address is 513 East Beckle Road, Casa Grande, Arizona. And actually, I'm really kind of impressed at the presentation and the fact that the complex is looking at, exercise and utilizing the environment around the complex and the kind of things that they're talking about for their design. I was kind of pleasantly pleased with what I was hearing and seeing. One of the reasons I came up here, though, is that I do advocate for the burrowing owls in the area. And I have noticed that I've seen some posts online that there were possibly owls around the Circle K area there, which would be close to where their development is. So I would just ask the developer to make sure and check their site to see if there's anything, for wildlife and that we can take care of before they do the grading and groundwork. And I partly bring this up because, I don't want to see developers come in and, because we have a lot of burrowing owls throughout the city, and they can be just about anywhere because they've been here with the farming community for a long time. And so, checking before work gets done or when the surveys are done, so that we don't have residents calling and saying, oh my gosh, my favorite owl is all of a sudden is impacted and stuff. So, and then work gets kind of delayed and things like that. And I'm just trying to help the development that they kind of check in our cities before they do that kind of thing. So I know there are certain areas we know they're there for sure, and we still have a lot of areas that they are. So I was just wanting to bring that up tonight. But also, this goes out to all the developers throughout Casa Grande, not just this particular one. But I do seem pleased by what I see them trying to develop and putting in a walking trail, and all the looks like environmental things that they have around the complex would be a nice to see in this area. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else?
Gloria Johnson Story, 1245 East Laurel Drive, Casa Grande, Arizona. I just have one concerned about water, but why are we putting in 3-story apartments? Our city has so many vistas and so many views, and all of a sudden all these 3-story apartments are popping up everywhere. Must we continue to approve 3 stories? That's my concern, besides the water.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else like to address this issue? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting and bring it back to the commission. You can do both. Please, if you got questions or discussion, go ahead. Please go right ahead.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to just put it out there, really. If there are any families in these apartments, the lack of turf area in this community, McCartney Center Pad, and then just in the area around it, I think that might be what would drive any of those families in that apartment to use that park, the HOA park, to the north, because as we saw on the site plan, there's a pool, a clubhouse, pickleball court, spa. I'm not sure how many children use a spa or a pool, unsupervised at least. And then, and so there's not many child-oriented amenities that would relieve that potential possibility of using that park to the north, but also just the fact that there is not a great amount of recreation in the area would lead, especially playgrounds and again, turf area, basketball courts, which on our community services master plan, it identified basketball courts and basketball as a rising sport activity and outdoor recreation in general as becoming much more important to people. So that really is my concern, is considering that recreation and what's available and what's being proposed, and whether that's going to be able to satisfy the potential tenants Obviously, seems to be geared towards the younger professionals, people downsizing, those that might get a lot of use out of pickleball courts and spas and things like that. So it's not of great concern, but just wanted to put that out there and see if any of the other commission members had thoughts, ideas.
Good warning for the upcoming master plan consideration. Appreciate that. Commissioner, anything else? Okay, you're up. Somebody up. Give me a motion.
Chair, I'd like to make a motion.
Thank you.
To forward a recommendation to City Council to approve DSA 23-00151, an amendment to Parcel B of McCartney Center PAD, subject to the following technical modifications and conditions of record.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve. Where are we at? DSA 23-00151. Any discussion on the motion? No, seeing none, please call the roll.
Member Aldrete?
Aye.
Member Vanderhayden?
Yes.
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Vice Chair Garza?
Aye.
Chairman Benedict?
Yes. Okay. Next, we have a pair of requests for property located on Treckle Road near Bisnaga Street. DSA 230031, a zone change and a preliminary replat for DSA 23000102. Okay, and Jacqueline.
All right, good evening, Commissioners. The first request is a zone change from Urban Ranch to R2. The site is located on Treckle, just north of Bisnaga. It's approximately 3.67 acres. And rezone is necessary to accommodate the existing 15-lot plat that the applicant is looking to replat to accommodate those lots. The existing North Desert View plat was created in 1964. And the request is for the preliminary replat is to reconfigure the lots and vacate existing right-of-way to create a better lot configuration. The replat would reconfigure, and then as you see that the original plat was created prior to the passage of the Groundwater Management Act that required certificate of assured water. ADWR has indicated that since the number of lots are not changing, the plat can be updated without requiring certificates of assured water. Going into the review criteria for the zone change, here are the three criteria that's outlined in the staff report. One of the criteria is that the action is consistent with the city's general plan, including the goals, policies, and other applicable elements. One of the goals of the housing element is to promote the construction of new residential dwelling units on vacant infill lots. And one of the elements also, one of the guiding principles is to increase the range of housing choices and products available to all members of the community. So the proposed zone change request meets this by providing the development of infill site for new single-family homes or potentially duplexes. Regarding the general plan, it proposes land use density and intensities within the range of identified uses. The requested zoning of R2 is appropriate in the community corridor land use category, and that the proposed zone change is necessary and proper at this time to meet the land use needs of the city. And then the zone change to R2 will allow the site to be developed as an infill, single-family residential development. Looking at the criteria for a preliminary replat, that's conformance with the R2 zoning. For the R2, the minimum square footage is 5,000 square feet with minimum lots of 45 by 90. The North Desert View replat has a range of lot size from a little over 7,000 to a little over 9,000 square feet, with lots ranging from 50 feet in width to 70 feet in width. One of the questions I did receive from one of the commissioners is why it was not rezoned to R1. And for R1, it requires 70 by 100 and minimum square footage of 7,000 with setbacks of 5 and 10. So the zoning to R2 allows for the site to be developed with a number of lots in the pre-plat. Regarding notification efforts, staff and the applicant met all the requirements, and I did not receive any comments or inquiries to date. With that, for the zone change, staff recommends forwarding a recommendation to City Council to approve the zone change request from Urban Ranch to R2, DSA 230031, with the following conditions of approval. I do want to note that staff has updated letter B. Looking at this a little further, subdivisions with hard zoning from single family or duplexes do not require any open space requirements, so we've taken off the requirement for an HOA or special maintenance district. However, they will still be providing landscaping along Treckle Road, and that easement will be the responsibility of lot owners 1 and 15. Happy to answer any, and then the next recommendation is to move to approve the pre-plat DSA 23000102 following the technical correction. Happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
Okay, commissioners, questions for staff?
I do. So how do you enforce lot 1 and 15 to take care of the landscaping?
It would be part of the final plat easements that would note that.
You mean like how do you force them to maintain it?
Yeah, how do you force somebody, yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's no HOA, correct?
Nope.
So,
Disclosure at sale.
yeah.
So the technical answer is that with the final plat, we would require a final landscape plan that shows what kind of landscaping is going to be put in the landscape easement between kind of the perimeter wall and the sidewalk along Treckle. So there will be some landscaping there, but it will be the responsibility of those owners of those lots because it's on their property.
Right, yeah.
But, you know, as I think about that, that happens kind of throughout the community. Like in my own neighborhood, on the corner lots, there's landscaping between the perimeter walls and the corner lots and those property owners, and they take care of that landscaping just fine. It's not a big area. It's probably going to be, you know, something like 8 to 10 feet, maybe. But they will, by code, be required to maintain it. I actually think we'll have better success with making that a responsibility of those two lot owners than an HOA, because sometimes HOAs aren't that responsive.
No, I'm just kind of thinking like Shadow Ridge, they kind of the same thing, but when you go into Shadow Ridge, the first lot owner there's nobody there, so they haven't been there for like a year, so nobody takes care of it. So how would you enforce something?
Again, the technical answer is that whoever owns that lot is still responsible.
Yeah.
You know, if there are weeds, for example,
Yeah.
From a code enforcement, we would cut the weeds. We'd hire a contractor, cut the weeds, and bill the property owner. They don't pay the bill, we'd lien the property.
Okay.
From a landscape, you know, we can actually do citations if it comes to that, but hopefully it wouldn't. But
Yeah.
we have mechanisms to make the property owner, whether they're, you know, absentee or residing there, be responsible for that landscaping.
Okay, thanks.
Chairman, I have a question.
Yes, please.
Jacqueline, so this is very close to the Santa Cruz Wash, right? On the north side. So this property is within some of the flood zone, I'm assuming?
Correct, and Cesar can address this a little more, but they will be doing Clomar and Lomar.
Okay, yeah. I was just wondering where are those 24-inch pipe that you're saying cross under Treckle? Because I don't see them on the site plan.
I can address that. Can we take an aerial there? It's interesting, if you drive along this section of Treckle and you notice, it's one of the few areas in the city that we actually have a storm drain system. We have 24-inch pipes running north-south in Treckle, and there's some inlets along the road if you look at them. And what it does is it gathers some of the street flows off Treckle, and puts them in the storm system and dumps them into the Santa Cruz right at the bridge. So what this development is doing, because it's pretty small, is they are doing retention basins, individual ones on the back of each of these lots. So each lot will have their own little retention basin, but in general, they're only retaining about 50% of their developed flows, and then 50% are going to flow into Truckle and into that storm drain, and then outfall into the Santa Cruz. So the condition is that we know how big the pipe is, we found the as-built, we just want an analysis to make sure there's still capacity in that 24-inch pipe to handle the flows from this subdivision. We're okay with them outfalling into the Santa Cruz, we just want to make sure that storm drain can handle those.
Got it. That makes sense. Thank you.
Commissioners, anything else? All right, where am I? Would the applicant or their representative like to address this issue?
Good evening, Chairman Benedict, Commissioners, and staff. Tim Hansen, Hansen Engineering, 115 South Main Street in Coolidge, Arizona.
Great, thank you.
I'd like to start by thanking city staff for their help as we work together on this project to bring it to this point. Related to the drainage, we are going to address the flows and capacity of that storm drain as part of the CLOMAR that we are currently working on in general, and basically have it hammered out by the time we get back to final plat. We just haven't got that in depth into the engineering design yet, pending a layout approval. Pretty big pipe, not a ton of flow. What's running off-site is equivalent to about 1/3 of an Olympic-sized pool. So it is, and that's based on a 100-year event. But if the design shows something more dire, then we will address it as go forward. And I think staff has been responsive, and I'm confident working together we can make this happen. Overall, I think it's a net gain for the city. Reduction in right-of-way, bigger lot sizes, zoning comes into compliance with the general plan. 75% reduction of access points on Treckle Road. These larger lot sizes are, I think, desirable, and the cul-de-sac, kind of mitigates future potential for additional traffic or cut through from other neighborhoods to how it exists now.
Great, thank you. Commissioners, any questions for the applicant?
I do, I have another
Yes,
question.
please.
What type of demographic, are you doing low to moderate housing for this subdivision? What are you gearing this subdivision towards?
Commissioner Hubbard, we don't really know yet. There's a lot of options out there. The R2 does allow duplexes. That's not something our client is interested in pursuing. They're looking for maybe some higher end single-family housing. The larger lot width of 70 versus the minimum required of 45 would allow for that. 3-car garages or...
When you say like upper end, like what? Because to the south, it's CRA homes right there, so we are in a CRA development, and we are in need of, low to moderate income family housing, and this would be a perfect area.
That's a good point. Ultimately, it really comes down to what the market's going to bear and the desires at the time. You build what sells, so if a more affordable housing is what the market's wanting, that's what they'll build. If it'll support more, they'll go that way. At the end of the day, it's infill housing, and that's going to be a good thing.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to open the public portion of the meeting. Anybody from the public like to address this issue, please come forward.
So, good evening. My name is Nancy Wood, and 513 East Beckle Road, Casa Grande, Arizona. One of the concerns I have with this particular area is for Casa Grande, we have a lot of drainage through the city in many places. And the Santa Cruz Wash is in that area is kind of problematic, would be with flooding and things like that. I'm kind of concerned on the north side of this development and how they would deal with the Santa Cruz Wash. I am quite familiar with how they could deal with water harvesting to keep the water from the properties that they have, and how they could design things to reduce whatever water is on the actual property. But my main concern is how Casa Grande is having the developers utilize the properties that are along the Santa Cruz Wash, and how they're going to address any kind of flooding that could be with, you know, the way the weather has been around the world these days. You know, we could have 100-year floods every few years, possibly, or ones that are bigger or whatever. And with building homes that are so close to floodplain with the kind of wash that we have that goes through there, really heavy rains, I'm afraid, might impact homes that are right along that and how they would develop. I would rather see more kind of recreational areas that were along the wash areas, that we could utilize those wash areas and protect them and use them correctly so that we didn't have impact on development. That's my main concern with looking at a development like this in this particular area. So I hope the developers that come in here can really take consideration of how they develop the wash areas and the runoff throughout the city. Okay, thank you.
Yep. Yep, thank you. Anybody else?
Getting to my neighborhood. This is Gloria Johnson Story, 1245 East Laurel Drive, Casa Grande, Arizona. I look at what they put up and I think it fits Casa Grande, what they need. I really do. And I'm wondering, I don't understand the drainage systems totally, but the development that I'm opposed to that passed has this drainage system. And I'm wondering, since they're going to neighbor each other, if there's some way to put it together. Does that make sense? Does that make sense, Paul?
Well, and more of that detail is addressed in the next step.
Yeah, because
This step.
Because they have quite an elaborate drainage system planned for the development to the other side of this, to the north of it, because of the Santa Cruz. Of course, I've seen that place underwater, so I've lived there a long time. But I was pretty impressed with the way this was laid out. Single story, nice yards. It's almost like Casa Grande. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address this issue? Seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting and bring it back to the commissioners.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Thank you, sir.
I'd like to make a motion that the commission forward to the city council a recommendation for a zone change from urban ranch to R2 multifamily residential covered under DSA-23-00031.
With the conditions?
With conditions.
With the condition as noted by staff.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
I'll second that motion.
A motion, a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Member Aldrete?
Aye.
Member Vanderhayden?
Yes.
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Vice Chair Garza?
Aye.
Chairman Benedict?
Yes. All right, thank you. And next, we will...
Chairman Benedict, there's one more.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. Thank you, thank you. Commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like
Thank
to
you.
make a motion to approve the preliminary plat covered under DSA-23-00102 with the technical correction as presented by staff.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, got a motion second. Any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Member Aldrete,
Aye.
Member Vanderhayden,
Yes.
Member Hubbard,
Yes.
Member Peters,
Aye.
Vice Chair Garza.
Aye.
Chairman Benedict.
Yes. Good. Okay. Okay, now, Jacqueline, you just don't want to do this. Yeah, is that what you're saying? Okay, we will have a public hearing, consider a request from Bowman for a zone change from Urban Ranch to PAD on Cadota and Rodeo Road, DSA 22-00052. Jacqueline.
All right. Again, good evening, Commissioners. Again, this is a request for a zone change from Urban Ranch to PAD for medium-density residential. The site is located at the southwest corner of Cadota and Rodeo Road and is approximately 18.5 acres. Again, as you see, the existing zoning is Urban Ranch, and the proposed zoning is multifamily, medium-density multifamily. The conceptual site plan for this is proposing a build-to-rent project with 190 residential dwelling units at a density of approximately 10.26 dwelling units per acre. Here's the PAD review criteria. It's all covered in the staff report. I'll be going over the two highlighted items. Looking at the zoning ordinance first, with this PAD, they're proposing a setback on Rodeo Road for 15 feet, the west side 25 feet with a setback of 50 for two-story buildings along Cadota 15 and Santa Cruz Road 25 feet and 15 for two stories as well. Building height is at 20 feet, and they're incorporating a 15-foot landscape buffer along the perimeter of the site, and the 15-foot landscape buffer along the west will have additional tree planting of 2 rows of tree planting to address the compatibility issues with the Urban Ranch zoning to the west. And as you can see, all the sites, all the proposed buildings along the perimeter are 1-story, and the 2 stories shown in orange color are on the inside. Again, here's the conceptual landscape plan showing the additional trees along the west and what they're planning. I also did get a question regarding why so many zoning requests for PADs for one use, and wanted to show a comparison between this particular PAD and what R2 zoning would allow, which would be the only other compatible zoning district for a build-to-rent type product. That would be duplexes and single-family unit or single units. So with the setbacks, as you can see, the PAD does have additional setbacks along the west where there's residential development. R2 would allow a height of 28 feet. They're only proposing 20. And then the building separation between the R2 and PAD is 20 feet versus 10. With the minimum area per unit in the R2, it's a 3,000 square feet per unit requirement, so that would potentially allow for 268 units with a density of 14.48 dwelling units per acre. Under the PAD residential design standards, medium density is limited to 12 dwelling units per acre, and if they went to a total of 12, that would be approximately 222 units. Again, they're only proposing 190 units. With open space, it's 10% in the R2 versus 20% with 15% active open space. and you can see those comparisons. And then again, the landscaping would only be required along the street frontages, and the PAD has landscaping along all 4 sides. Looking at the general plan, one of the goals of the neighborhoods is land use category is to minimize land use conflicts and promote compatibility between residential developments of different scale by encouraging the use of physical separation or landscape areas to separate adjacent single and multifamily developments. Again, as noted, the proposed development has a 15-foot perimeter landscape buffer and are introducing additional landscaping requirements along the west side to accommodate or have additional buffering for the residential development to the west. And they are limited to a 2-story at 50 foot from that residential zoning district. One of the other action steps is to increase the amount of medium-density housing within the city and encourage the use of medium-density residential developments as transitional buffers between low-density and high-density. Again, this is an infill site of medium density within the city and will act as a traditional buffer to the high-density development proposed or approved to the to the east and northeast, to the low density to the west and northwest. Here are some conceptual elevations that are being proposed. And regarding notification efforts, so this initial project was proposed last spring of March of '22. I did send out applications of review to the neighboring community. Based on the feedback I got, I had the applicant schedule a neighborhood meeting. At that point, it was put on hold, and I did receive a petition last May of 2022, with 49 signatures. So then, yeah, the owner put this project on hold until the summer of '23 with a new applicant. And prior to resubmitting to the city, a neighborhood meeting was held on Wednesday, July 19th. However, only one community member attended that meeting. I did receive emails from other neighbors saying that they were out of town and could not attend. Some of those emails are attached to the staff report. Some of the concerns were regarding traffic on Rodeo, as well as the rezoning in general to a higher density. And I have not received any additional comments or inquiries since the neighborhood meeting as well. So with that, staff recommends to forward a recommendation to City Council to approve the zone change request from Urban Ranch to PAD for medium-density residential development, DSA 220052, with the following condition of record. Happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
Very good. Commissioners, questions for staff? Nope. All right, would the applicant or their representative please come and talk to us?
Good evening, Commissioners and staff. Matt Warner. I am the property owner along with Mr. Knapp Lawrence and the Lawrence family. We are excited to bring this project forward. My apologies, Matt Warner, 11825 North 55th Place, Phoenix. Like I said, I'm one of the property owners with Mr. Knapp Lawrence and the Lawrence family. We're excited to bring this property forward. We've owned this property for over a decade. We had the project put on hold, and we're able to bring it back forward. In front of you is the site plan. As you note, coming off of Rodeo, a good portion of the site is dealing with the flows that come from the north across Rodeo. We keep it in a natural drainage condition till we get to the south, where the driveway on Cadota there is coordinated with the Indus project, which is a 3-story multifamily project across the street there. Other property across the street from Cadota is commercially zoned. On the other side of Rodeo, we have the apartments and then some single family across the street there. We do have Urban Ranch Homes that is on our west boundary. With that in mind, we put the landscape buffer that met the PAD standards that were incorporated for medium-density residential on that boundary. We also wanted to double up the landscaping, basically put trees, double rows of trees there to make a complete visual barrier between those residents and our project. Also, it is all single-story. On the exterior of the project, the two-story, is the three-bedroom that's concentrated around the middle. This project is going to have some garages. It's going to also have covered parking. Every single unit is going to have its own private yard. We do have a clubhouse, a pool, a barbecue area, and some active recreation space planned for there. We've worked with staff over the past year to figure out where we're going to put the driveways in particular. Rodeo has some roads to the north and other driveways, so we located our driveway on Rodeo as a right in, right out only, working with staff on that. And then our secondary entrance, which is going to be primary entrance for the residents, is the one off of Cadota. We have access to utilities. We will be in compliance with all the requirements for water, sewer, and drainage. Regarding drainage, we will retain all of our water on site. The drainage that is off-site drainage, we will perpetuate through along Cadota there in the natural wash, and then channelize it and then dump it off as the requirements are as it goes into the Santa Cruz wash. Other adjacencies on Rodeo to our west is church-owned property. Across Santa Cruz to the south is another church-owned property. I'll be glad to answer any questions, and thank you.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions? Maybe we're dealing with the zone change master plan to see later. Nothing? All right, very good. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, now I'd like to open the public portion of the meeting. Anyone like to address this issue, please come forward.
Nancy Wood, 513 East Beckle Road. Oh, Nancy
Thank
Wood,
you.
513 East Beckle Road, Casa Grande, Arizona. Again, I'm just briefly saying, you know, what the considerations are for the Santa Cruz wash and how they handle the flood flow in that area. It looks like they are working on doing that. The east end looks like it has quite a bit. I couldn't tell from the diagrams. Of course, that's upcoming, but I hope they really look at making it work pretty well for the area, for the water flow for the Santa Cruz. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public like to address this issue? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting and bring it back to the commission. Commissioners?
Chair, I'd like to make a motion to
Thank
forward a
you.
recommendation to City Council to approve the zone change request from Urban Ranch to PAD for medium-density residential development, DSA 22-00052, with the following condition of record.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. All right. Any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Member Aldrete?
Aye.
Member Vanderhayden?
Yes.
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Vice Chair Garza?
Aye.
Chairman Benedict?
Aye. Thank you. More fun to come. All right. Before we address the last issue, I would like to take a 5-minute break.
Yay, thank you.
Okay, I gotta go to the bathroom.
Which house are they gonna buy?
Thank you. I was gonna, yeah, I was getting ready to nudge you.
you. Okay, next on our agenda, consider request from West State for major site plan for 120 unit multi-family development, Fortune in Colorado Street. Okay, DSA 23-00064. Jacqueline, talk to us.
All right, good evening, Commissioner. Oh, wrong way. There we go. This request is for a major site plan approval for a 120-unit, two-story multifamily development located on approximately 10.2 acres, and it's part of the G Diamond Parcel H near the southeast corner of Courtson Road and Colorado Street. Per the PAD, G Diamond PAD, the site is zoned for medium-density multifamily with a maximum density of 12 dwelling units per acre and 2 stories in height. The major site plan is proposing a density of 11.76 dwelling units per acre and a proposed height of 23.2. And just want to note that the typical height for 2 stories is 28 feet. Also, this site does not have certificates of assured water. And here's the zoning map showing the medium density along with the open space corridor. Here are the criteria that is outlined in the staff report in more detail. I'll be covering the 2 highlighted items. So looking at conformance with the city zoning ordinance and comparing the PAD with the major site plan, here are the setbacks outlined in the PAD and the major site plan setbacks. Looking a little closer at the southern boundary of the site plan, the site setbacks varies from 25 feet to 35 feet, and they are including additional landscaping with they're proposing 24-inch box red oak, and with the maturity, they will be approximately 30 to 40 feet in height. I also did want to note that overall conceptual site plan shows the 100 feet open space corridor that is owned by the city as part of the community recreation center area. Additional landscaping improvements with the master plat update to the site is anticipated as well. And this shows that there is 125 feet building separation between the single family zoning to the south and the proposed buildings with the site plan. Here are some elevations that are proposed with the major site plan. Regarding notification efforts, notices of application and review was sent in March of this year. Based on those comments received, a neighborhood meeting was held in May at the Community Rec Center. It was attended by approximately 15 members of the community. Their concerns both at the applications and the review and the neighborhood meeting were regarding the density, height of the buildings with the balconies facing properties to the south, property value, traffic concerns, and noise. From this neighborhood meeting, the initial site plan that was shown there had buildings directly facing, with elevations directly facing south at the 20-foot setback. The applicant did reconfigure that and propose a site plan, as you can see here, with the changing of elevations so they're not directly facing south. One of the other comments that we did receive was regarding the age and development restrictions that are no longer being assessed with the site. So a little background on this. Prior to the property being sold, the site did have deed restrictions relating to age and other development restrictions. However, these development details were not part of the G Diamond PAD for Parcel H. So any changes to deed restrictions to the land itself would be a civil matter and not part of the major site plan approval process from the city. With that, staff recommends to move to approve the major site plan request. I'm happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
Okay, commissioners, questions for staff? Yes,
Chairman, I have a
please.
question. So the deed restrictions, can you help me understand this more? So there was a deed restriction on the property, and then when it exchanged hands, that didn't convey with the new owner?
Correct.
Commissioner Garza,
Yes.
my recommendation is we probably pose that to the applicant. They do have their attorney here, and they can probably address that better.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Go
ahead.
Yeah, just to clarify, so the landscape buffer is 100 feet that the city owns in between these properties and their site plan?
Yes, so there is a 100-foot open space corridor between the two properties that is city-owned, and it's part of the Community Rec Center master plan that will be further.
trail system.
Trail system, further landscaped when it's developed.
And then there's an additional 25-foot setback to the building itself?
Correct, yeah, on their property, there's additional landscaping within that 25 and 35 feet setback.
Okay.
And also, just for clarification, in that open space corridor that the city owns, there is an existing trail already built in it. It's just not landscaped. There is an existing trail that we've built there.
Should get out more.
I know. Shush.
Okay, commissioners, any more questions for staff?
What about traffic? I know on what street is that? Courtson? It goes into one lane, so when, whatever street this is,
Colorado.
Colorado? I should know my streets. When
Colorado.
when you turn off of Courtson onto Colorado, it's a one-way street? On Courtson, it's a one-way street. It narrows
What-
down from 2 to 1 lane right there, correct?
Correct. Yeah, so a traffic impact statement was completed.
Okay.
Unfortunately, since this is not about Courtson, they are not responsible for doing any additional improvements to Courtson to add those additional lanes. That would be the responsibility of the property to the south. Their traffic statement did conclude that it does not impact that, and our traffic engineer may be able to address that a little bit more.
Okay. Because how many more people we're expecting if we approve this? 200?
Moner, can you help us with the width of the existing street?
Yeah.
Was that the question?
Yeah.
Width of the street?
Yeah.
Okay.
So let me answer the question about how many additional with the traffic.
You have 2 questions.
So the standard is typically 10 trips per unit, that's probably a little high in this case. So
Okay.
you're talking 240 trips a day. So that's your volume.
Okay.
And then we can, do you want us to tell you what the cross-section is on Courtson, north of?
I just know when I drive down Courtson, it goes from the middle school, it automatically, right when you get before PERT, it goes to 1 lane. And it is very crowded right there.
It is. It's still a 2-lane facility from Colorado to Peart, and so it's not been improved. It will have to be widened with additional through lane in each direction and sidewalks and bike lanes when the developments on the north and south side of Courtson between Colorado and Peart are built. But I guess the question, as I understand it, is does this project warrant any improvements to Courtson between Colorado and Peart? That's kind of the question you're asking?
Yeah, I mean, we're literally having Courtson and PERT, we're talking about having apartments. Then we have apartments on Treckle and Courtson, another 200-300 homes right there. Then we're talking about just south, Cottonwood and Treckle. I don't know how many houses there. And then the other corner, every corner we're going to have, we have rentals, which is great, and I'm not complaining about it, we need it. But we're not foreseeing the roads. I just don't understand how we're going to have capability of having all these people, because we have, I don't know, a couple thousand people in how many miles, square foot mileage?
Okay.
So maybe we could have our traffic engineer address the question of whether or not this project warrants any improvements to Courtson between
Yeah.
Colorado and Pierre. Could you do that, Monier?
Thank you, Paul. Commissioner, for this project, as small as it is, I recall probably approximately 70 peak hour strip. As per our standard, the threshold is 100 peak hour strip to have a full traffic analysis. So if I go by the trips, number of trips, this project doesn't need a detailed traffic analysis, but still I asked the team to show me the level of service analysis for Colorado and Courtson. And it shows that it works with acceptable level of service.
Even with the apartment complex down
Yes.
on Courtson?
So that part is taken care of. Now, off-site improvement and also off-site traffic condition on Courtson, per our standard, probably this is beyond the range of this small little
No,
development. Now, if any improvement needed on Courtson, I guess it will be up to the city to have some CIP. Or if, as Paul mentioned, if any other development comes, then we'll have that part developed. But this particular development and team, they have done beyond what is needed as per our standard.
Okay.
Okay. Any more questions for staff? I do have at this point, Paul, can you talk to us just a minute about this and a couple of others that we've addressed this evening? Didn't have assured water supplies and address the question about where does the water come from for these kind of developments?
Absolutely. Yeah, earlier tonight, we heard the question is where's the water going to come from? And so because this is not a subdivision, it is not required to have a certificate of assured water supply, a 100-year certificate of assured water supply, because that rule only applies to subdivisions. However, the water for non-subdivided developments, apartment complexes, build-to-rent, industrial, commercial, typically, are primarily served by Arizona Water as the water provider. Arizona Waters has an allocation of groundwater through Arizona Department of Water Resources as a water company. They have a specific allocation of groundwater that they can drill wells, pull the water out of the ground, and serve non-subdivision developments like this one. So the short answer is the water comes from groundwater. It comes from Arizona Water's allocation that they have of groundwater, which is a specific amount. And this developer will negotiate what's known as a water service agreement with Arizona Water. And through that water service agreement, Arizona Water will negotiate whether or not they have enough water in their existing wells to serve this development, or whether or not this development will have to participate in an additional well to provide water into their system to provide it. So all non-subdivided developments typically are served in our community by Arizona Water from groundwater that they have rights to pull out.
So
Okay.
would Arizona Water have to put like a pump station nearby to do that?
So
No?
Arizona Water
No.
has water mains nearby
Right.
that are all pressurized, they're
Right.
water mains. They have a specific amount of water in their network, in their system. They will analyze whether or not they have enough capacity, enough water in that system to serve this development. If they don't, then they'll negotiate a contribution from this development to provide additional water into their system by drilling a well on one of their existing well sites or
Right.
a new well site.
Right. So do we know that they're doing that? or-
Well, that's the responsibility of Arizona Water Company.
They're the water provider.
If they agree to serve them, it's the responsibility of Arizona Water Company to, actually get that water there. And then the other question is, okay, is there enough water for them? And Arizona Water Company has, the Department of Water Resources, my understanding,
Right.
is that they have an allocation,
Right.
and it's part of their responsibility is,
So we need.
in doing this, in doing these kinds of things, is to be sure that it fits
Okay,
within their
But we don't have
allocation.
that yet.
So let me maybe give further information on how our process works.
I get
If
it.
this major site plan were to be approved, the next step in the process would be when they go to building permit, they have to do something called a site development permit and an approval to construct water mains. We would not approve the building permit for this facility until they had their water service agreement approved by Arizona Water, and
Okay.
Arizona Water had signed off on their water plans.
Okay, got it.
So no building permit gets issued until we know that.
Okay, got it. Sorry.
Cool, no, thank
No,
you.
that was
No, it's great to walk through that.
I'm a little slow.
Nope, great to walk through that. Okay, any other questions for staff? Would the applicant or their representative please come forward and address the commission? Give us your name and address.
Good evening, Commissioners. John Gillespie. I'm an attorney with the law office of Pugh and Lake in Mesa, 1744 South Val Vista. Thank you, Jacqueline. Jacqueline did a nice job introducing the project, and I know we have some neighbors here tonight who would like to address the commission, so I'm going to try to be brief, and if possible, if I could reserve some time at the end to address some comments from neighbors. I'm going to go straight to this slide right here. Maybe I'll back up. I'll give us a little bit of a history. In 2003, the G Diamond Ranch PAD was originally approved, laid out a variety of uses in this area, including this site being designated for townhome uses. In 2007, there was a slight amendment to that PAD, and the acreage of this site, subject site, was shrunk a little bit. The open space to the east was expanded, a few changes, but overall the original G Diamond PAD, of which our site and the site to the south and to the west, all surrounding, is all part of this PAD. In 2018, the ownership groups that were involved did place a age restriction on the subject property as a part of their development efforts. And then in 2021, that age restriction and the deed restriction related to it was removed voluntarily by the ownership. So that was a private agreement that was made in 2018 and was removed by private agreement in 2021. It was never a part of the PAD scope, never as a stipulation to the approved PAD. It was a private matter with the development team. Okay, this next slide here. So we did hold a neighborhood meeting in May. This is a major site plan approval, so we're not a zoning case. So we're looking at the city standards for development, and we went with a plan to that meeting with the neighbors, and we said we comply with the code in all these respects. We got some feedback from the neighbors, and we heard that feedback. Some of the major concerns were the buffering on our southern boundary, the orientation of the buildings themselves with windows orientation. We took that feedback, and we went back to the drawing board, and we revised the site plan to address those comments. And so you'll see on this revised site plan here, we have an average setback of 40 feet from our property line to the building, which is in excess of the 20-foot requirement. When you add that to the 100-foot buffer of open space that's been developed, it's a nice little trail that's been put in there by the city to connect to the community recreation center. A really nice design there. We've really created a large buffer to the acre lots that are to the south. That's a 140-foot buffer from our building to the rear lots of those neighbors. Additionally, to increase that buffering, we added more trees, so we've gone above the standard for landscaping. Jacqueline pointed out some of those specifics of trees that have been added in there. just for context and to kind of show, when you come off the I-10 here at Courtson, we measured there and we saw it was 162 feet wide, the freeway. So we thought that was a fair comparison to show that the distance from our building to the distance of the homes to our south, we can run a freeway through that distance. And just for comparison and context.
To the home structures?
To
or
the home structure.
Property walls?
You'll see here, Commissioner Garza, this exhibit here just details, the engineer went in and did some calculations showing from the structure to structure, and that actually ranges from 204 feet to 244 feet from structure to structure, existing structures. We did a line in sight as well here that just helps to illustrate the significant distance that we've gone to great effort to address the neighbors' comments here on create a good buffer, reorient your site, and we work directly with neighbors on that. We've seen this landscape plan here. Just illustrates overall a really quality project, nice amenities, a pool, a clubhouse. Our parking meets the standards, and as was discussed, we did some traffic analysis, and it was determined that our traffic output could be accommodated and did not cause Colorado Street and Courtson, that intersection, to go below the level of service, B actually. I'll point out, Commissioner Hubbard has mentioned, this development, we will make an impact fee that's for traffic improvements in the city generally, and we would classify the improvements along Courtson. It's an off-site item. Our impact fees will go towards that development if it's put into a CIP, or once that commercial property to our north develops, they would have the obligation to put in those street frontage improvements. Commissioner Garza, I think I addressed that deed restriction question. I'm happy to elaborate more on that as well if needed. I'll take any questions now, or I'm happy to come back up after neighbors have had a chance to speak.
Commissioners, any questions?
Chairman, I have another
Yes,
question
please.
on so can you share who the property owners were in 2018 versus 2021? Were they the same?
I know that the ownership group has had similar, with a development project, people come, people go, members come in and out, and so I am not privy to all of the members of these large development groups that are involved here with the G Diamond Ranch really generally beginning and how that transfers worked. But the important matter is that it was a private agreement. There was no contractual obligation with surrounding properties, and there was also no stipulations in the zoning that required an age restriction to be either put on or to require it to not be removed.
Understood. Thank you.
Commissioners, any other questions? Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that. Now open the public portion of the meeting. Anybody from the public like to address this issue, please come forward.
Nancy Wood, 513 Speckle Road, Casa Grande, Arizona. Since some of the discussion about this development involved Cadota and my experience with driving on this area and other residents that I've heard that drive this area, the section between Colorado and Pert that does go down to one lane, it really is a problematic area already, even with the traffic that is already in this area. It gets backed up for people to make a left turn that are going west and needing to turn north. And then there's no turn lane as you're going west to turn south. And so all the traffic gets backed up. And then you have sometimes people that are riding bicycles. There's no space. It's very dangerous in that section between the school and PERT. And I think it's a city issue when all these developments come in and then you don't have the roads to capacity that are having people added in that are already a problem before these developments even come in. I'm not talking about this one specific development, but again, it's all of these different things that are projects that are going on create cross-traffic all across the city. And when you have sections that don't get developed, and, you know, there's even one on Viola Road that's just east of Pinal. You have a road and you come through and it's like, all of a sudden, there's dirt in front of you for like just a block. And then you have no way of really getting around with the traffic. So I hope the city considers those traffic issues. I don't know that it's, you know, related specifically to this developer or whatever, but it's problematic throughout the development. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Richard Wilkie, 1433 East Dove Place, in the neighborhood immediately south of the property. Just wanted to, you know, it's difficult, you know, as from a local standpoint, you know, the project it's not a local company, actually it's out-of-state company, so they're not familiar with the impacts that this traffic would have. What I've provided to you is just I'm a visual guy, so I wanted you to take a look at this. Highlighted in the blue shaded area is the project, and you noted immediately to the east of it or west of it is Colorado. The green arrows are basically what they said is that they're going to have to utilize Colorado because if you notice, Colorado 2 courts in. There is no Colorado to the south. There's no necessarily definitive plans to make that extension there, so it is one way out. Actually, I'll get to that point. When you have 220 parking spaces, you have 60 3-bedroom, 60 2-bedroom, multiple cars, you're going to have about 200 vehicles in that property, in that project. I'm sorry, there's a disconnect with only 100 or less than 100 cars. Most people go to work 7 to 8 o'clock in the morning. Right now, it's difficult just getting out on there sometime and turning into it. So if they use that as a main way in and out, you're going to have the neighborhood immediately to the west, the G-Time and Ranch area. They usually come in because it's easier. You know, we all kind of merge in there. Well, if you've got that many cars, guess what? They're going to start going through the neighborhood. Next slide over, if you note. Well, listen, if you're in the apartment complex, you're not going to want to wait too. So I'm going to go through the neighborhoods. So now you have a significant number, increased volume of traffic going through those neighborhoods. Those neighborhood streets, if you know them, they're not very wide. And we all know that not everybody goes 25 miles an hour, 15 miles an hour, and you're going to have an increased number of kids in this department too. So I'm trying to go as quickly as possible. The next slide, if you will, is just an indication. There's no signal, there's no crosswalk. You're going to see an increased number of kids from that apartment complex. They're going to have to make their way to Cactus or Cholla Middle School. So that is another serious issue here. There's just no other way out until Colorado extends south. The next slide over just tells you, this is not about, we've endured a number of successes, industrial that's driving this housing. We need housing. But we have, just to your note here, over 1,600 permitted. This is multifamily, not single family, just multifamily projects already under construction. Then we have another almost 1,000 that have been approved, and then we have over 3,000 that are in the pipeline. What we have here is an opportunity, and you're going to hear from some of my neighbors here. Just because it can be done doesn't necessarily mean it's the right project. We're not looking about the size, the setbacks. We had this project before, the setback was 100 feet. Well, that's great if you've got small backyards. From a visual standpoint, if you see it's a difference. You can see into the backyard. And the trees, if they're going to be fully mature, then yes, that will be a blockage. But this red oak grows at 1 to 2 feet a year. So if they're going to put in an 8-foot tree, it's going to be 4, 5, 6 years before it even provides any kind of a buffer from that. And I will yield my time respectfully.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good presentation. Anybody else like to address this issue?
Gloria Johnson Story, 1245 East Laurel Drive, Casa Grande. That road is really bad, and you put in school buses and the school zones, and that makes it really congested. As someone that uses the facilities on Peart Road, you do end up blocked. But there's something, and I know we can't do anything about it tonight, but I've started talking. I one day asked Mayor McFarland, we have a lot of streets in our town that go from 4 lanes down to 2. And it's because we're waiting for the developers to pay for our streets. Now, without talking to the finance department, and even Mayor McFarland said this, maybe we should start working on our streets and then have the developers pay us back. Because first of all, it'll be cheaper to build them all at the same time than to build these half roads that we keep building. But I know Courtson Road is a disaster. So I feel for the G Diamond Ranch people. Thank you.
My name is Jeff Davis. I live at 1311 East Prickly Pear Drive in G Diamond Ranch. I run, I bike. I became aware of this project by running through the path there and running up Colorado. I can't believe that this is zoned for apartments at all. It doesn't fit the character of the neighborhood at all. I mean, it doesn't fit in G Diamond Ranch. It doesn't fit for Dove Place. I'm aghast that this is even being proposed. When I went and talked to some of my neighbors in G Diamond Ranch along Renford, which runs parallel to Colorado, most of them weren't even aware that this project was being proposed. All of them were like, is it even worth showing up and talking about this to you guys? They didn't even know this was being done. I don't really feel that the outreach by these people developing this is adequate for the neighbors in G Diamond Ranch. I feel for the people in Dove Place. I run through their area too, you know, having the visuals there, which are supposedly taken care of. But I would, the lady right here, who was talking about all of the developments that have already gone on the corner of Treckle and Courtson, on the corner of Treckle and Cottonwood. I don't know why every corner needs and every location needs multifamily units. There seems like there's plenty of them, and I don't think it fits where you've got it. Just because you zoned it that way at one time doesn't mean it has to stick. So I would ask you to consider that and listen to my neighbors here on Dove Place.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Seaton Maraldi, 1446 East Dove Place. I am here tonight both as a resident of G Diamond Preserve and also as a member of the Gilbert family. The Gilbert family was the original owner of the farm at the location, which was Cottonwood to Courtson, between Treckle and Peart, so that entire area. The family has done a lot of things for the city of Casa Grande, including donating the land where the rec center sits. There was a lot of thought that went into the design of the entire area. Our family designed this area in particular with not only the approval of the city, but also their input. It was decided that additional 55+ housing was needed, and attention was given to ensure privacy and safety for the neighbors. This plan supposedly was protected by deed restrictions that were filed through the county. Our family continues to be confused and disheartened about how the deed restrictions were dissolved so easily. I would like the commission to seriously consider our concerns and not allow a traditional apartment complex to be built on Colorado. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Cardita, 1422 East Dove Place. I represent not only a homeowner, but also the G Diamond Ranch, G Diamond Preserve HOA president. At this time, I would like to echo what my neighbor Richard Wilkie said, just because you can do it doesn't mean you should. In this particular instance, I would like for you guys to understand that there was a community meeting. There was several, and I mean several, recommendations that we had put onto the developers of this program. They came back with 2, let's switch up the way that the buildings face and we'll put some more trees in. We had made the consideration of the building setbacks in the parking lot. Why not flip the design? Why not put additional space between our houses, which, don't get it confused, that 200 and some odd feet is from my back porch all the way to their building. Does not take into account that my backyard is somewhere around 70 to 80 feet of visible area that they can just sit on their balcony and take a look at my kids swimming, no problem. You can see into my backyard. If people at the rec center can see into my backyard, they definitely can see into my backyard. Secondly, we asked them, well, if you guys are going to stay with that plan, how about you guys make it 1 story along the south wall? What's the harm in that? You have plenty of other buildings that you would have double 2-story access to. Why not make it 1? Well, it's very apparent they care about profit over neighborly assistance and protections. Last, the value to our custom homes will be diminished significantly, I believe. If you look at the pictures of the first couple projects, those looked great, aesthetically pleasing. What do those look like? They look like just blocks, looks like Legos. And you want that right directly north of my house, bringing down my property values. We have $1 million homes on our street. I don't want to see any of our neighbors move because they now have to deal with all of the issues that an apartment complex brings. Traffic being one of them. I will echo Ms. Hubbard. I agree that there is an issue. And of course, their response is, well, we're not legally required to have any improvements. Just because you don't doesn't mean that your project will not affect and influence the rate of traffic in our city. You will see more people using the neighborhoods, getting out. Courtson in Colorado, Courtson and Pert are almost impossible to navigate as it is today. I would like to thank the staff for the duty that they've done, and I understand that they have their hands up in the air. I will end with this. This is a build quick complex. Forget about it because they're only concerned about an out-of-state business profit because they got a good deal in land.
Thank you. Yep. Somebody else.
Lynn Cook, I'm at 1361 East Jordan Drive. I live in G Diamond Ranch. I never got a notice, never heard about a meeting, other than I don't live on Renford. I live inward in the subdivision. But I've never heard about it. I just happened to read it on an online site. 2-story, it's just not right. This is a home area. We have, like they said, we've got apartments on this side, we've got homes down here, we've got another apartment. This is a development for families. Across from that is families on that side. To stick an apartment there. There's traffic is ridiculous now on Courtson trying to go in and out. And then down Colorado, it's only 2 lanes to go back and forth. So where all that traffic is going to go, I don't know. School children, there's 2 schools. There's a middle school and elementary school on Courtson, and then down on Cottonwoods, there's the Mission, I forgot the name, Mission. It's a kind of a Mission Heights, thank you. So there are kids that walk to that school. There's kids that walk all over that place. There's so many. Now, I don't know what kind of bedrooms this is, how big these apartments are. That's partly my concern is the children and also the water. You know, is that going to affect our water? They're over in G Diamond. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. But I just don't think it's a good spot for apartments at all. And I wish I had one of your homes, guys. You have beautiful homes, and I totally understand how you can all be upset about that. I would be too. I mean, I just live in a little house, but it's just wrong for this area. Even though whatever you say, it's okay, this area, it's just not a good place for it. It's too dangerous for students, and traffic's going to be ridiculous. Anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Good evening, Dan, Brenton, and Susie, my wife, Brenton. We live at 1455 East Dove Place. A little bit of our background. So I'm an immigrant from Canada, moved here 16 years ago. We were skeptical a little bit to move to Casa Grande. We actually love the small town. Traffic is our biggest concern, and that road there already is very bad, hard to get out, turn left. Coming down into Colorado from Courtson is sometimes, almost 2 minutes just to turn left. Then the road all backs up all the way to Pert. We have a family, 5 children. We love the area, but that skepticism, we were a little bit concerned with the community coming in there with that apartment complex. It's got us even more concerned. What's it going to do with crime rates? Are we going to have break-ins? That sort of thing. I'll let my wife say a few things too.
Yeah, we built a custom home there, and we were told, this is Dove Place, and the reason that they named it Dove originally is because of peace. And that just totally appealed to us, raising 5 children in a peaceful family neighborhood. Now it's kind of our worst nightmare to think that this apartment building is going right in behind us. I'm an elementary school teacher. I know what it's like when there's an apartment building near a school. They're always on lockdown. They're always on holds. Unfortunately, that's just how it is in apartments. There's more crime. Historically, that's how it's been. So that's a huge concern of mine. We built this custom home with the understanding that we were building in a very nice, peaceful, custom family neighborhood. And that's not what we're getting now. And to say the least, we're very upset that this apartment building is possibly going in behind us, pretty close to us.
We've worked extremely hard to get to where we're at, and we don't want to have our home devalued from something like this.
We put our life savings into this house, into building this house, so.
Thank you.
How you guys doing? I'm Skylar Whitfield of 1409 East.
Just pull it up just so you're more comfortable. So
East Dove Place. My only concern is I just bought in the neighborhood. I have terrific neighbors. I bought my mom's dream house. I'm worried about the value of my house going down. We spent a lot of money to get the house, and it was an amazing gift for my mother and my children. And I'm just worried about the traffic.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yep.
Wow. Okay. Michelle Wilkie, 1433 East Dove Place. My main concern is traffic. The traffic is already bad. It took us 3 minutes just to take a left from Colorado to Courtson tonight to come here, and that's with no school traffic. In the morning, it's ridiculous. Sometimes it takes you 5 minutes to get out and drop off your kids to school. With approximately 3,000 people living in a square mile in all those buildings that are already being developed at this time. Just imagine the amount of traffic that's going to go through there. It's not just Courtson, but Pert, it's also a problem, taking a left. Everything is backed up in the city. I love development. I love the growth in Casa Grande. I like what I'm seeing, but I feel like this is not needed where it is. This project can go anywhere else where you have more room for people in and out, more accessibility to it. My main concern is that when I look at this project, I feel like I step back 3 decades. When I look at the rendering of this apartment, it feels like something from the 90s. Okay, the other projects, very well done, very well executed. They're bringing amenities that are going to be pleasing to the community, that the people that are going to be living there are going to enjoy. In this project, there's a pool and a little clubhouse. How are you going to retain people living there happily, and how is this not going to turn into an eyesore years to come? I say it's right now, the concerns about the traffic again. We haven't even began to establish the impact that we're going to have with those 3,000 people living in the area. Whatever is building right now is about 1,500 units in that 1 square mile, okay? So we have the 272 units that are going to be right next to the Dollar General. Just imagine all that traffic coming this way and the traffic going that way. We're never going to be able to get out of our homes. And Colorado is years in the making to be developed. So that's my main concern, that it is not the right place. I love for people to come, but this is not the right place for this development. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Aditya Muthu. I'm here today representing my parents, Dr. Gerald Muthu and his wife, Kavita Muthu, in their absence. Obviously, the main concern is traffic, and I understand there was some traffic planning and traffic engineers that looked into this. My question is have you guys driven through there 7 a.m., 3 p.m.? It is a nightmare. I don't know if you actually assessed the area during that time. It is impossible to get out of that intersection. Apart from that, obviously property values and everything else that my neighbors have said. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your input.
David Crosby and my wife Jody. We live at 1434 East Dove Place, and pretty much ditto on what has been said. I don't know what else we can say that hasn't been said, but yes, traffic makers concerns. We do have 4 young children that do attend the middle school. 2 of them currently going there right now, and it is hard to get there. And it is, I mean, if the traffic is diverted through that neighborhood, like our neighbor Jeff said, those streets aren't very wide, and there is a lot of cars parked on the street. It would be very dangerous if a lot of traffic was diverted through that neighborhood. We're concerned with that. And also, yeah, we just don't want people looking into our backyard. We built there so that we could have a little bit more space and not have to worry about that.
Okay.
Nope, that's pretty much it. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Hi, my name is Dave Keene. I live at 1456 Dove Place, which is obviously, I'm on the 5th house down on the north side of the street, so the project will be just north of my house. I don't really have a whole lot to add other than just a couple of takeaways that I took from the different things. It was interesting, he talked about the developmental impact fees, and that can be used for the roads. That money is not earmarked for the roads. That money goes to the city manager and department directors to decide what are the most pressing projects. I paid $15,000 in developmental impact fees. They didn't ask me where I wanted that money to go. It goes into the developmental impact fee fund. And that fund's divided up into a bunch of stuff. The fire department gets some, police department gets some, public works gets some, planning and building, it's divided up. There's categories of where that money goes. So to sit here and say, yeah, the money we're paying in the development impact fees is going to go to improve courts, and that's not true. That's only if the city manager and a department head decides that that's a priority. It's kind of hard tonight for you guys to do this, but nobody's exaggerating. Go over to Courtson in Colorado. I leave for work usually about 7 o'clock in the morning. You could sit there for 5 or 6 minutes sometimes when you're trying to go westbound out of that street. Eastbound, it's not so bad, but sometimes the traffic will back up all the way from Peart, and that's not going to change. Colorado is not going to change. There are no plans to extend Colorado to the south for quite a while. I think eventually Colorado will go to the south. I think O'Neill will run east-west, but neither one of those are on the drawing board or ready to happen at this time. I bought my house and I bought that property and put a lot of money into it because I wanted a nice, safe place to live. I went to the meetings with the developer and the owner, and we did make some suggestions. And I'm a little dumbfounded at the suggestions because if you look at that diagram that's up on the screens right there, the second building that they've canted now looks directly into Dr. Mutha's backyard. The third one looks directly into Sergeant Cardita's backyard. The fourth one looks right into Dr. Crosby's backyard. The fourth one also looks directly into Marion's backyard. So, canting the buildings, that part made no sense to me. What made sense to me was the suggestion we made was to reduce the buildings on the south side of that project to 1 story so there wouldn't be any issues with people looking into backyards and seeing things. And listen, those guys, I really feel bad for those 3 homes because I have a great view of the mountains and the vistas off in the distance. All 3 of them that's going to be blocked for them. They're not going to be able to see that anymore when there's a 23-foot apartment building there. So I think that's about it. There wasn't a whole lot of other takeaways. I know you can't answer any questions, but I appreciate you listening, and hopefully you guys will make the right decision on this.
We appreciate the input.
Say again?
We appreciate the input.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, I really hate microphones, so. Haley Cardita, 1422 East Dove Place. I've just got a list here of things I wanted to address that have probably already been addressed as well. Pedestrian walking, it's not just the kids going to school, but it is also people jaywalking to Dollar General all day long. The kids will stop there on their way home from school and go in whatever direction they live from there. If they are not using the crosswalk and then coming this way and then going back that way from the school. The single lane on Courtson has already been addressed. Being trapped in our neighborhoods, not able to get out if there's more traffic. And to be honest, I have utilized G Diamond Ranch a few times to get to other parts of the city to make a safe right turn to where I'm going. So obviously just a quick trip to Safeway is not as quick. I could be in and out of Safeway faster than, for a few things, faster than making the left turn out of Colorado onto Courtson. They addressed the many schools. Last year I had one at Desert Willow, so I had to go through Courtson and Pert to take him to school because he was on a boundary exception with the gifted program, as the district had that gifted program in one class at that school. With all the other developments on the other 3 corners of that square mile, this is not the right time for this kind of project. We need to see what those impacts are for our roads already. I'm already nervous about Cottonwood and Treckle. Sometimes I have to utilize that to go to work, but most of the time I'm turning right to go out. But if I'm taking the kids to school, I have to make a left and then go the Treckle route. Where I work, it's right on Pueblo and Cottonwood. So we've had our own coworkers trapped in the traffic from the accidents coming with the legacy traffic going across that where there is no light for safe turns as they continue to make lefts all around there. And those are kind of blind left turns when you're on Cottonwood because of the way the medians are. They don't shoot you out to be able to see past the car in front of you that is also making a left in the opposite direction. So there have been some difficult accidents there, and especially lately I've noticed more. With more developments going in near that, it's going to impact Cottonwood a lot harder. And a lot of people use Cottonwood to avoid Florence until they get to where they want in town and then go shoot whichever direction. So I'm concerned about that as well. Safety for an apartment. One night while we were working on our lot before we lived there, we had to tell our children, we were living in an apartment, and we had to tell our children, hurry up and get in the car. Our neighbor just shot his girlfriend. Dad has to get to work. As you know, Sergeant Cardita was over the detectives and the felony moments in town at that time. So those are the kind of things that I'm well aware of instances in apartments, and that is another safety issue that I have raising 4 children.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Anybody else want to address this issue? We appreciate that. Appreciate your input. You didn't make it easy for us.
Commissioner, can I make one more comment? I did forget to note on the notice, regarding the notices that were made, notices were sent out within 500 feet of the site and included both the G Diamond HOA as well as the Preserve HOA. So that would include properties along the east side of G Diamond. And then I also forgot to note that I did receive one additional email prior to the staff report and agenda being published, and that was handed out as an attachment tonight.
Okay.
So did we figure out how this was,
Just give us a second.
I'm sorry, you sent out the G Diamond Ranch Board?
Yes, they were notified.
I'm on the board, I was the president, I never got any.
So the address on record is to the management company.
So can you?
Okay.
So
good luck with that.
Can you, ma'am, can you identify yourself?
I'm sorry,
for the
Lynn
record?
Cook, 1361 East Jordan Drive.
Okay.
Anyway,
All right.
and on another note, I'm older than the lady. They remind me of things from the 1960s, the way they look. Heck with the 90s, they look like the 60s. But that's what I'm saying. I never heard anything about it, ever. So just.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else from the public? Seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting. Bring it back to the commission. Commissioners.
so did we figure out how this 55 plus was dissolved? I still don't understand how we had something in 2018 and then by 2021 it was dissolved.
I think the ownership changed, so those owners decided to remove it when they.
So this wasn't like in a deed or?
Well, so my understanding, they put, so you owned it, you put the deed restriction on, I come to buy it from you, you took it off before I bought it.
That's the way I understood it was not. So that I just wanted clarification.
Okay, and I
was just trying to figure out how do we get clarification?
I think the only way to control the use of any property that surrounds your own is to own it, right?
Mhm.
So these are different owners, so
they can make their own rules.
They got a different
get
vision,
it.
right? So that's.
Well, and
That's just,
So-
it's hard to.
Yes, Director.
My understanding is that when the property was sold, the deed restriction was on it. The new owner removed the deed restriction and sold it to someone else. I think that's the series of
Without
events.
involving all the property owners around.
Well, because the new owner
Can do that,
can do that,
right?
right?
Yeah.
So and I don't know how the deed restriction was, worded, but apparently it was worded in a way that that could occur, and that's my understanding,
They figured
that's
out
that's
the
what's
loop.
happened.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Chair Benedict, would you like me to maybe clarify that a little bit more? Can I now, or?
I don't know that it's necessary
No,
or helpful.
It's not, no.
Okay.
I was just trying to figure out.
It's
It's not.
It's not an action that we can deal
No,
with.
it's
So,
not.
thank you.
So let's talk about the traffic.
Let's talk about
Yeah.
what you want to talk about, Commissioner.
Well, I'm going to suggest that the development have the stricter standard of a traffic impact analysis and not a traffic impact statement, so that we can see what's actually really happening at Courtson and Colorado Street.
Well, then-
Because I don't disagree. I think it needs a left turn at least into Colorado. I'm not saying that it might warrant a traffic signal, but I think it needs left turn movements, at least on a Courtson for, which would be westbound. So, I think we enforce a little bit stricter standard, even though it's not required.
Okay, Mr. Peters.
Just for the city traffic engineer, just like to know what your level of comfort is with the study that you've already done for this whole area there. Are you comfortable with the impact study that's been done so far, or does it need to be readdressed, according to your feelings on it?
Mr. Commissioner, the study itself is very simple, and it didn't show a lot of things that I heard today, this evening. So I'm very respectful to the citizen and their concern, and I take those are correct information. If those are correct, it doesn't support what is the findings of the traffic analysis that we did. So if the commission allows me, I would like to reach out to the team. This is the business. I rely on another engineer's work and his professional ethics. So the data he's provided, if that is correct, then all I noted that all the delay that citizens experiencing, he didn't show those things at all. If this delay, like I heard that 3 minutes, somebody has to wait before taking a turn, not even 3 minutes, way less than that, then that should trigger some other mitigations. So I don't know how process works, but if commission allows me, I would like to reach out to the team and ask them to provide me a little bit more information and provide the background information that how they have come up with.
So does that make sense?
Okay.
So what he's saying is the
Okay.
analysis that they did is lesser than what a regular TIA for a big subdivision would need to be.
And it didn't.
That's all that's required.
It didn't, you're right, it didn't require that higher level.
Also, if I'm allowed, I would like to question their trip count information because that is not matching with what I heard this evening. So I'm relying on another engineer to professionally seal this thing to be correct, and he relies on another party who collected the traffic information. And this evening, I have a feeling that one of the information is probably not correct. Either a report is not correct, or what I hear from the citizens, those are probably not representative of what is found on ground.
Okay.
So I wanted to mean that the report says that really very insignificant project, very insignificant traffic impact, no mitigations is needed.
Okay.
So they have to justify with all the concerns. If you allow, I will reach out to them.
Okay, we hear you.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Yes.
I mean, I'll just say I
Yeah.
agree with Commissioner Garza that we should condition a full traffic impact analysis. In my own professional experience, we've been required to do TIAs for something as simple as a self-storage facility. So I don't see why we shouldn't require it for a 120-unit apartment complex. So I would agree with that condition.
Okay.
So
Yes.
one of the members of the public talked about negotiating some setbacks with the parking. I think it's a great compromise to put the parking along the back property wall and the buildings on the other side, so I think it should be considered. I mean, I think it's a way for the development to stay a good choice, but providing additional buffer of the width of the parking, so it's just something I would suggest seeing.
Okay.
Or even if we even can negotiate it, I mean, we can't always change everything, but I know this development, they have, half acre lots, they're huge. And if we could just put single story right there instead, and then make it 2-story in the back. I mean, if we're gonna compromise, let's compromise, Because I know, when I work out at the rec center, I can see their backyards. I can't. I mean, not their backyards, but I can see the tops of their houses and stuff. And they have beautiful homes there. And
Okay.
and I just think we need to, if we're going to, let's see if we can compromise here or something. I mean, we need to figure out this traffic 100%. It's horrible. But, I mean, changing the direction and making everything at angles, it just even makes it even more because they have bigger backyards, so the higher you are, you can look in. There's no doubt. So I don't see changing the angles is really beneficial, to be honest. But if we could do something, maybe make up single stories right there and go back, and then further to the north, make them double stories, something that we could compromise. That's my recommendation.
Okay. All right. Yes.
No.
Anything else?
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
I would like to make a motion that the commission table this item for another month, and that the traffic impact study.
Real quick, I just want to make, since it sounds like Monir wants to look deeper into the traffic counts, instead of requiring a full traffic impact analysis, because what requires it, what trips that is a code requirement. So instead of requiring it, if it isn't needed, I would, just suggest that Monir take the new trip count information and see if one is needed, instead of requiring it if the code doesn't require it, if that makes sense.
Okay, so can we still table this?
Yeah, you can table it.
Okay,
right.
table it, and he can determine what impact study is going to be
Is
required.
required.
Okay, that sounds fair enough. So my motion is to table this item until the November meeting, and hopefully that some of these items can be addressed.
So,
Wait.
so let me, I think I'd be more comfortable with we have a motion. We have a second?
Yes.
Okay, so into the discussion of the motion. I think I'd be more comfortable with your motion if it's, so I guess where I'm at is it was kind of, these items were addressed. I'd kind of like to be more, because there was a whole lot of things talked, there's been a lot of things talked about this evening.
Right.
So the traffic, is that, the staff is comfortable, has time to review the traffic? Is that your concern? Is that the totality of your concern?
Changing the buffer.
Yeah, and
negotiating.
I think,
There's
Rick was
something
also
else to go along with that.
talking about reconfiguring the site plan a bit that's adjacent, the lots.
If that's a possibility.
How do we put that in terms here?
So do you want to make a motion to amend, just to make it clear?
Well,
Let's make it clear.
I think I'd like him to do it,
Right?
so I don't have to vote twice.
Okay.
Paul.
And I think we're kind of looking for, if you heard what they said, I think what I heard them say was we kind of like a little verbiage suggestion. Yes?
Can we not just continue the case without any?
You can.
We can.
Yep,
we can-
absolutely can.
The motion is on the
Absolutely.
on the table.
I'll shut up. We can move on.
Okay.
Mr. Director.
The motion is, and it was seconded then.
Yes.
Just the way that it is,
Yep,
we're
just
not going to
table.
add anything
Right,
else.
just table until the next meeting. The director has a comment?
So, Mr. Chair, just for the commission's information, we probably won't be able to make any revisions and consider them thoroughly in time for your next meeting, right? Because we're doing this stuff so quickly. We
Right.
have to like set your agenda like next week for your November meeting. So I would ask that you
January?
maybe push it to the December meeting
Okay.
to allow enough time for the applicant to make revisions, give us more information, and for us to analyze it and prepare it for your next agenda, for an agenda. So
Okay.
if you wouldn't mind,
I can go along with that.
But make it to the December meeting?
Yeah. So it's the same motion, it's just that we're going to table it until the December meeting.
Okay, who's the second?
I'll second.
Okay, all right, as it is. Okay, so we have a motion second to table this matter until the December meeting. Any discussion, any more discussion? Okay, seeing none, please call the roll.
Member Aldrete?
Aye.
Member Vanderhayden?
Yes.
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Garza?
Aye.
And Chairman Benedict?
I'm getting all
Yes.
kinds of titles.
I need more.
Okay, this item is tabled, we get to hear it again. And next on our agenda, would anybody from the public like to address the commission on any other items? Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Jeff Cardita, 1422 East Dove Place. Once again, I'd like to thank you guys. I understand you guys are in a hard spot. Like my neighbors have said, we have invested our entire life savings into this community, into this house. And while I understand that there are some legal restraints, some deed restrictions that may or may not have misled us as buyers when we actually started this process of building our custom house, and whether or not that's applicable in this scenario or not, I get it. It may be legal, but I also think that it's not necessarily the right thing to do, just because you can do it. And I've been with the police department for 17 years. I've seen the growth. I remember driving up Pert Road and being able to see almost all the way to Pinal. And a lot has changed. And a lot of good things have changed. But what I always go back to is we stack in the city of Casa Grande known problems for a later date. We all know that traffic is bad, regardless of what the traffic engineer may suggest. We all know, if you've driven down Courtson at any time in the last 6 months, you know what the traffic situation is like. Doesn't take a genius to figure that out. What I would recommend, and just put it out there, is that we don't put the cart before the horse. We know that there's an issue. Let's not super inundate this area with additional housing, vehicles, pedestrian traffic, and anybody else that wants to come into this community. We, as a community, stand 100% behind our neighborhood at G Diamond Preserve. To the very end, we will oppose this apartment complex. We will voice our opposition to this apartment complex, and we will do everything in our power to be as loud as we possibly can, that we do not need this type of apartment complex in that specific area. As I've talked with city staff, there's plenty of other spaces in this city. This is 110 square miles of space. Let's not try to cram as many people as we possibly can in 10 acres. 10 acres is equivalent to the 10 houses in my subdivision. I cannot imagine having 120 individual units crammed on my street. So, with that being said, I want to thank you guys for your time. I know you guys are in a hard spot. But going forward, and any other meeting that you may have on this particular item, you can expect to hear me, you can expect to hear my neighbors, and you can expect to hear us all in opposition to this project in its entirety. Now, if the board decides that it would like to go ahead and approve this project, we would just ask yourself, if you lived where I lived, would you want that apartment complex right there? And I would hope all of you guys would say no. Because it's not a reality for them when they live out of state. It's a business development idea, and it's a profit maker for them. That's all they care about, is making the dollar because they got a good deal on the land. So I would ask that the board just keep that in mind as we go through the next coming months. I don't imagine that you guys have your minds made up at all, but I would just ask and re-ask that the board seriously considers either not allowing this project to go forward or having them move to another part of the city that would better suit their needs and have less of an impact on the already established neighborhoods that are there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, Haley Cardita, 1422 East Dove Place, the missus. Okay. I had a question on when the traffic analysis was done. Do you have dates for that?
I don't have exact date, but it is very recent. I would say that it should be within the last 3 months.
In the last 3 months?
Yeah.
Okay, school started about
Yes.
3 months ago, so I'm just hoping that it was done during the very busy times of school in session and all that. I know you said it was over 3 days?
No, weekdays, I say most it would be 3 months, but it should be probably around 2 months from today.
About 2 months ago?
Yeah, yes.
So about this time, late August?
Yes, school was on, I think, but again, I'm kind of giving you the information from my memory.
Okay.
Yeah, but I can verify if somebody wants.
And
to
how
know that.
long was the study again?
What's that?
How long was the study being surveyed or whatever?
We asked them to provide the traffic information for weekdays, morning around 7 to 9 a.m. and afternoon 3 to 6 p.m.
Okay.
So they have the traffic data they have collected and provided to me. Now I will have to sit down with them and verify with the information I learned today.
Okay.
It doesn't represent what they provided to me.
Okay.
Chairman?
They could stand there.
Sorry, I had one
No,
more little thing.
I was just wondering if maybe is the TIS a public document?
It is, and we can provide it to the speaker if she would like a copy.
Okay.
Yes,
Absolutely.
please, thank you. You can email it to Jeff. And then if we're doing a second one, I just ask that it be, when fall break is done for everyone and everybody's back to the full craziness of life. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else? Seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting. Director, have some reports.
See, I have provided you with a copy of the building valuation report, so you have that. Reflects the building activity from September. And let's see. It looks like council only had approved considered one of your recommendations, which was for the Maratea PAD for the new mine expansion, and that was approved by city council. So that's all I have to report.
All right, great. Thank you. Commissioners, I have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. How about a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Or adjourn.
What about this analysis.
No, well, I can get it from them. I don't, I gave it all to them.
Yeah.
You sure didn't.
Should I ask him? He can-
We passed them all out.